Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Daisha.
Good morning.
Daisha's in the building.
Yes, I'm excited for our conversation today.
Same. I was okay, transparency moment. I was just telling Daisha that I have admired her from afar for a very long time. I may or may not have like stalked her to be like, hey girl, please come be a part of this conversation. So I am so honored that you have joined us. I think your story, honestly, is that of resilience.
Yes.
It's that of like boss woman moms can. It's
Yes.
one of showing others the way, building as you're climbing. So I would like you to introduce yourself to the people.
Yes. Well, of course, my name is Dasha Kennedy. I'm a financial activist and creator of the online community, The Broke Black Girl. I started my online community because I wanted to help other women, especially women that look like me, mothers, get a better understanding of our unique experience when it comes to money. Because just being honest, when you are a mother, your perspective around money changes a lot. I always tell people that children will change your life and your wallet. So the way that I looked at money completely changed, when I had children. And I just wanted to create a safe space to talk to women about my experience with finances, and it catapulted into something unbelievable. And for the last 4 years, I've been growing this online community that now has reached almost 300,000 women. And it has been,
What?
yes, it has been an amazing journey. Oh my goodness.
Can we give the virtual snaps for Daisha and her community? I love the fact that I was just saying building as you're climbing
Yes.
and just this idea that you don't know what's possible. So when you think about oh, I'm gonna start this business, oh, I'm gonna apply for this job, like
Mhm.
believing in yourself. Can you talk a little bit about like did you feel imposter syndrome? Did you feel like I'm in over my head?
Yes. When I first started the online community, I was in the middle of recovering from some of my own financial hardships. So I felt like, who am I to get on a platform and tell someone anything when I'm still unlearning and recovering from so many other things? But one of the things that I learned very quickly, then that there is no better leader or no better person that's capable of leading a community than someone that can 100% resonate with the people that are joining the community and where they are. So for me, yes, I felt a ton of imposter syndrome. I had no idea when I clicked the button and started a Facebook group that it was going to turn into anything. I just wanted to create a space to talk about something that was bothering me. But within a year, I had 60,000 women saying, oh, I can relate to that as well. And that
Mhm.
helped me really come over imposter syndrome because now I knew that I wasn't alone.
So I hear you saying release your gifts. I hear you saying believe in yourself, and I hear you saying
Yes.
you have something to offer the world. I love that. Sophia is in the comments, want to say good morning. I see
Good
Trisha
morning.
Gordon. Hello, my friend Trisha. I see New Jersey is in the building. Hi, Misha. Hi, Winnie.
Good morning.
Trisha, I mean, people are excited. So let's talk about you being a working mama and how you get things done. Like, what is your superpower? What are your secrets and life hacks?
Me, when it comes to me as a working mom, I and I want moms to hear me out when I say this. I do not prioritize my children over me. Now, on the surface, when you hear that, it will almost make you pause. But what I
Yeah.
mean by that is, in order for me to be the best mom, to show up for them and support them and love them and take care of them, I have to prioritize myself in a
Mm,
very healthy way. I have to make sure
mhm,
I'm getting enough sleep. I have to
mhm,
make sure I tend into my mental health. Now, that doesn't
mhm,
mean I'm pushing my kids to the back burner and indulging in things that gives me no type of return. But what that does mean is I am always making sure I am replenishing my cup so that I can pour into my children. So for
mm.
me, yes, so prioritizing being a mom between work, I have to prioritize myself first so that I make sure my cup is full so that I can pour into them.
Oh, you just set somebody free.
Yeah,
Okay. So, Daisha, you have really modeled for us what it means to be well, right? So, Women Work Well, this community is all about how you can
yes,
show up for a mom, how you can be a boss, and how you can take care of yourself in the process. So, if there's a mama out there who is doing this, that, and everything in between, has nothing left for herself, Daisha told y'all, stop it.
yes, yes. And we have to also get used to delegating. Sometimes when
Mm,
we think of mom, we think of superhuman. We are not. We are human just like everyone else. We cannot do everything. So for me, I had to get very comfortable with delegating. And it was the scariest thing for me to trust someone else to take on tasks that directly impact my children or directly impact my household. But I had to get comfortable with asking for help. So I had to realize, yes, Daisha, you are an amazing mom, but you cannot do everything. You're only one person. And I had to get very comfortable with accepting help, asking for help, and delegating.
So, if there are women wondering how to ask for help or what that may look like, what would you say to them? And y'all, if you have questions for Daisha, drop them in the chat because I'm
Yes.
gonna be sure. What would you say?
Yes, the first thing I would say, lean on your community, a community of moms. There's not going to be anyone else that's going to understand you more than someone else that is also a mom. And you would be amazed at how quickly and how eager other moms are willing to help other moms because they get it. So the first thing is simply just creating a space for yourself where you can be vulnerable and just asking for help. That's the very first thing. For me, I have a ton of friends that are moms that have boys that are older than my boys, so they've been through some of the things that I'm just now going through. So I'm asking questions, I'm asking for advice. And for me, if it even gets to the point where I have to pay for someone to come into my home and help me, I'll make that financial sacrifice if it means that it's going to eliminate some of the things that I have to do so I can show up better for my children. For me, when I'm tied down to cooking, cleaning, laundry, working, how can I really have the free time to enjoy my children? Because that's going to wear me out. So, being able to just ask for help, leaning on your community, I can almost guarantee you there's someone in your circle that is going through what you are going through or have been through what you are going through that is more than willing to help you and share information with you.
So, in order to ask for help though, you have to be vulnerable. Like,
Yes.
you have to kind of acknowledge that you don't know it all. You have to kind of say like, how do I get through this challenge?" And so, sometimes people suffer in silence.
Yes.
Sometimes people have bought into this archetype of like superwoman. Don't get me started on strong black woman because that is a lie.
It's a whole other conversation.
It's a whole different
Yes.
conversation. But I do think that there's this expectation. Well, moms will figure it out, and so I think gleaning from others' experience is always positive. So you are an entrepreneur, and I wonder if there are other entrepreneurs out there. So, what would you say to the mom who's an entrepreneur who is grinding to build her empire? How does she sort of manage it all?
So the first thing that I want to say is this is not a race. You create your own timeline. In the beginning, when I first started my business, I was looking at what everyone else around me was doing and how quickly they were accomplishing things, but I also wasn't considering that that person may not have children, or that person may be married and have someone in the household that could help them. With me, I don't have those things. I'm a single mom with two boys. So my journey is going to look very different. So if there is a mom that is starting a business and probably doesn't have any help in the household, know that you create the pace for yourself. You don't have to compare yourself to what someone else is doing. You can delegate what may take someone else a year, it may take you 3 years, and that's okay because you are going at your own pace. And I think a lot of my pressure in the beginning of my journey of entrepreneurship and being a mother came from comparison, and
Mhm.
that made my journey much tougher than it had to be. So the very first thing that I had to do was eliminate someone else's timeline as a way
Mhm.
to say that's what I should be doing and that's when I should have it done.
I love that. Oh, so many good gems here. So Carmi says she's taking the first step and she is asking for help. Sheena Park is giving you a shout out. She said, "Boy, mom in the house."
Yes,
So I love this idea, and I tell my kids this sometimes because, they'll be like, "Well, why did she get this and I didn't?" And I'll say, "Run your race." Right? This
yes,
is your race to run. This is your gifts and talents. And I have to tell you, like, comparison is a thief of joy.
yes,
And
it is.
I'm gonna just acknowledge that because I have a as a part of this LinkedIn Accelerator program, there are resources, and I shared like, man, I'll have a win, and I'm like, girl, you did that, you go, girl. And then I'll look at somebody else, and I'm like, oh, but it's not that. And my coach, shout out to Trish Lindo, she said, "What's for you is for you."
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So, no need in looking at what they got, no need in comparing yourself. What's for you is for you. So, literally all this week, I've been telling myself, what's for me is for me. I
Yes,
think that will enable us to support other women, right? And cheer other women on when we see other women succeeding. If we just remember, what's for me is for me.
absolutely. I agree. I 100% agree.
So, my friend Katie is in the chat, and her question is, what is your backstory?
Oh wow. So I didn't grow up in a household where I learned about money. It wasn't until I was 19 that I started working in the finance industry. And I came from retail, and I came from a very careless life of getting my paycheck, spending it on clothes. I didn't have any children then. So I was very self-absorbed. I did not think about the future, any financial planning. Didn't think about it, didn't care about it, was not concerned about it. I was simply living for the moment. And when it came time for me to go to college, I decided not to go to college because again, I'm young and I want to make money. That's all that I really thought about. So when the opportunity became available for me to work full time at my job at the time, I was working at Forever 21. I took it. So I took that instead of going to college and furthering my education simply because I just wanted more money. That was all that I knew about financial planning. And my mom, she sat me down and she was like, look, so kudos to moms because my mom is super amazing. My mom, she sat me down and she said, look, if you don't want to go to college, you really need to consider getting into the workforce where you can get a job that has benefits, that has room for you to grow. And she introduced me to the finance industry. So I'm 19. I'm the youngest person in this huge company going in, working around accountants, and I'm hearing personal finance terms for the first time ever, like budgeting, debt management, balancing accounts. I had never heard of these things. So my
Mm,
mind was just intrigued to learn more and to know that there's a whole other world at this time, finance, that I knew nothing about. So that's where my love for finance came from. I was so intrigued by it and seeing how people were benefiting from it. Like I heard a woman mention she was going to pull money out of her 401k to purchase a home. I didn't even know stuff like that was possible back then. So my mind is just open and I'm eager to learn more about finance. And I started my personal finance journey at 19, but I did not get finances together until I was almost 30. And it was because nothing prepares you for personal experiences. Like you can read a ton of personal finance books, you can learn from someone else in finance, but nothing is going to prepare you more than personal experience. And from 19 to 30, I had 2 children, I got married, I went through a divorce, I switched jobs, I became an entrepreneur. So I'm going through all of these different things financially that shaped my perspective on finance. And I wanted to share with other women what I was going through. So one, so they could avoid some of the obstacles that I had to face, but I wanted to create just a safe space where I can share with other women that look like me, that understand where I was coming from without feeling like you're making these things up. You know how sometimes you'll be in a situation and a person will always make you feel like, oh, that's not real, or that really doesn't happen because it's not their experience. I was
Mhm.
really having these experiences and I wanted to share them with other people. And I clicked the button one morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. I clicked the button to start a Facebook group and I just introduced my mission, what I wanted to do. And from that click of a button, everything changed.
Oh!
Yes. Everything completely changed from me just starting a Facebook group and just wanting to share my story. So that goes back to what I said earlier, the power in being vulnerable and speaking up. It completely changed my life because I had to be very vulnerable to get in front of 60,000 people and say, I spent 10 plus years in the personal finance industry. I know all of these things about finances, but I still messed up my money in so many ways. That required a ton of vulnerability for myself, but it was in that vulnerability that my entire life changed.
Mm, mm. I gotta take us to church real quick because there's a scripture that says we are overcome by the word of our testimony. You
Oh,
shared, come on, and we are 300,000 women later, right?
yes, yes,
So I love that aspect of building community and sharing. You touched on a few things though. You talked about divorce.
yes.
And I wonder if there is someone out there listening who has gone through divorce. What would you say to a woman who has gone through a divorce or is currently navigating a divorce? And how can she sort of think about her finances?
When I was going through my divorce, one of the things that I would have loved to hear was that what I was experiencing at that moment was not going to last forever. That there are going to be some things that you're going to have to look at differently. I went from a 2 income household to one. I went from being partially responsible for some of the for the expenses to 100% responsible for the expenses. I went from only having to do part of the parenting to all of the parenting. And I think has someone, grabbed my hand and said, there are going to be some things that you're going to have to adjust. It is not always going to feel good, but it's not going to always feel like this. I would have been able to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
So if there's anything that I would say to a mom that's going through a divorce, you're going to have to make a ton of shifts in your finances. Things are not going to stay the same. Your expenses are probably going to increase. Where you work, how much you make, the money that you bring in, if it didn't matter before, is going to matter now. Those are going to be things that we just have to rip the band-aid off and be honest about. Because if we don't have those honest conversations, even though they are tough with women now about what finances look like when you're going through a divorce, then you're going to end up exactly how I was, sitting in a courtroom completely clueless on how to advocate for myself.
Mm. Let me just take a deep breath and sit through that.
It,
um,
it's a lot, but it's a lot and it's a tough conversation. But there are a lot of women that go through that, and there are not enough safe spaces for women to be vulnerable and say, I'm going through a divorce. This is how I am being impacted financially, and I need help. And I wish that it wasn't such a closeted conversation because I would have been able to reach out to someone when I was going through that instead of me having to go through trial and error and figure it out on my own. Now I try to prevent other women from having that same experience.
I love that. You are creating space so that people don't have to make the same mistake, right?
Yes,
Going through the trial by fire, but you are
yes,
now using your platform to uplift others. I think that is so beautiful. Um, Someone says divorce is a part of the life cycle and it breaks, really nobody gets married to get divorced,
right.
right? So when you come together, you are blending your life. You are giving up some part to yourself
Mhm.
in order to build this whole, and so when that, tears apart, it's devastating.
Yes, it
It
is.
is absolutely devastating, and thank you for sharing transparently. I want to flip this coin
Mm.
because you talk openly about being a single mom. And I know that that comes with an additional layer of
Mm.
responsibility. So, what would you say to the single mama who is trying to make it work, but is kind of struggling?
So one of the things that I struggle with was I would try to compensate financially with what my children were missing emotionally and physically from their fathers. So that put extra work on me as a mom. So now I'm working harder than I need to work. I'm trying to earn more money at an unhealthy rate because I'm trying to buy them things or take them places or give them things to compensate for what they are missing. Impossible.
Mm.
You will never be able to replace that with anything material. And I had to learn that very quickly. But for me as a single mom, when it comes to money, when it comes to my children, what I've learned is children are not as delicate as we would like to treat them or see them as. We can have honest conversation with children, and honestly they probably are already aware of some of the things that we are trying to hide from them. So for me, having transparent conversations with my children really helped me financially. Being able to say, mom is unfortunately is just mom, which is the truth, and they see that every day. I'm unable to afford that now, but this is what it could look like for us to be able to afford that in a few months. So now I'm bringing my children into my financial planning instead of having to sit in my room and cry and beat myself up because my son wants a video game that costs $400 and I'm unable to buy that right now at this moment. I would like to buy it because I feel like, oh, he's already going through so much. His father is not here, but a game is not going to replace that. So me accepting that and realizing that there's other ways that I can go about this. So I would show my son, okay, if we save, let's say the video game is $400. So I bring him now into financial planning. If we save $100 by not doing this for the next 4 months, we'll be able to buy this game. So now my son is excited because we can track the progress. He feels involved with the money. He can ask me questions about it. Now a light bulb goes off around his head. Now he's interested in financial conversations. And I'm not putting a financial burden on my son, but what I am doing is helping him realize what finances look like for just one person in the household. There's going to be a different way that we have to buy things and plan things. And for me as a mom, once I realized that very quickly, that I could include my children in the personal finances that way instead of trying to financially compensate for other areas that they were missing, a lot of things changed in our household, especially for me as a mom. I didn't feel a lot of mom guilt. I could stop beating myself down because now my children were aware of what our reality actually was.
I told y'all Dasha was coming with these gems. Okay, so you said so many things. One that I really liked was this idea of bringing your kids along, so having these open and honest
Yes.
conversations. But then also that's helping to build their personal finance,
Yes.
acumen, and they understand like, oh, well, if I buy this ice cream, then it's going to delay me getting this other thing. So, what are some ways that parents can talk to their kids about money?
Yeah, so the very first thing that I would say, start with teaching your kids the difference between needs versus wants. That is the basis of everything in finance. Even as an adult, I still use that needs versus want. Is this something that I need, that I absolutely need to survive? Or is this something that I want? And if it's something that I want, can I wait on this? Can I save for this? That start there. I taught a personal finance class to a class of second graders, and we worked on needs versus wants. And a lot of the children, when they were listing needs, even after I explained what needs were, they were still saying things like, chocolate and video games. And
Well, we do
it
need
goes to
chocolate
show you
though.
how
We do need
you know what, I wasn't mad at them because I'm like, okay, I get it. But it just goes to show, how kids view things and how they view money. So there are subtle ways to introduce children into money management or anything personal finance related, including them in the grocery shopping, comparing prices, especially let's think of cereal. Children love cereal. So look at the brand cereal and the off-brand cereal, compare prices. These are real conversations that you can have in the grocery store with your children, and it's you just planting these small seeds when it comes to them about money. Even when we think of things like buying gifts, giving children a budget. If the budget is $100, you can tell them you can have whatever you want as long as it fits within this $100. There are very small ways that we can introduce money, personal finance, budgeting to children without putting adult problems on children.
I love that, and, I really have been talking to my kids about generational wealth. That is
Mm,
hashtag the goal, and so I talk to them about, "Hey, I started this account for you. Here, go look at the amount. Oh,
yes,
this" you have to be thinking about these things, and so I love that, there are these small sort of ways that we can, have conversations with kiddos. I laughed because you talked about bringing them into the grocery shopping. Y'all, I love Aldi, okay? I don't know if anybody else
me
love
too.
Aldi, but sometimes, they'll be like, "Can we get these Lay's?" And I'm like, "No, we gonna get these good, crispy toasted right here. We're not getting the real thing." So,
Yes,
joking. So I really love that. I like to sort of give a word of the week, something to kind of carry people, to give them something to think about. Um, this week, I feel like it's rest. I feel like that is the word. I feel like there are so many demands,
yes.
with the ways that we're being pulled, like emotionally, there are things happening in our world that just, are heartbreaking, and so I feel like, and I'm really also talking to myself, that like rest is so essential. And you won't be able to be your best self. You won't be able to do anything for anybody else if you are not resting. What are some of the ways that you practice either self care, self love, and make sure you get the rest that you need?
So one of the things that I practice with my children every day when they come home from school is we practice 10 to 15 minutes of silence. Now that doesn't mean don't talk to mom, don't ask mom any questions. But what that means is I've been working all day. They've been at school all day. We're filled with a lot of emotions. We're excited. They want to tell me a lot of things, hand me a lot of papers all at once. But we practice 10 to 15 minutes of silence. That means we come in the house, we drop our bags, everyone goes to their individual rooms, and we just decompress and we just chill. So no one is really talking, no one is really on the phones or video games. We just decompress. And what I learned very quickly is that after those 10 or 15 minutes is up, it is much easier for me to be present, to hear what they have to say, to really engage in the conversation, to sign all of the things that they're giving me from school, to hear about their day, to ask questions, because we're not riled up with so many emotions after our day. So for me, I prioritizing making sure that I am available by disconnecting. And when we hear things like disconnecting, we can't always attach a negative notion to that. Disconnecting just for the moment, disconnecting from our devices, disconnecting from my computer, disconnecting from my email. I practice rest by disconnecting. Sometimes I have to step away. And as a mom, I have to be honest about the non-traditional ways that I have to go about things, not only as a mom, but a divorced mom with two boys. One of them is almost a teenager. So I have to go about things non-traditional to make sure that I can disconnect and then reconnect and I can show up as my full self. So moms, it's okay to disconnect for a moment so that you can reconnect and really show up as your full self, as the best person that your children need at that moment.
Disconnect to reconnect.
Yes.
Somebody put that on a t-shirt. I see my friend Steve in the chat. I see Ron K. Hello to all of you. Hi, Carmise.
Hi.
So, so as we round out, and by the way, I need that in my life because when I get home, literally, I just want to collapse on my bed.
Yes.
and not that I'm gonna sleep, I just need a moment,
Yes.
and, I don't know if my family's gonna go along with the moment of silence, but I'm gonna try it.
But
Um
they'll catch on. Start small. Start like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and work your way up. And you will be amazed how quickly time flies by. Like it will go by so fast.
So, we are rounding out this conversation as you think about everything we've talked about, everything that people may be seeing, feeling, experiencing. What would you leave with people? What's one thing they should be thinking about?
So one thing that I want to say to moms is I want moms to get comfortable with delegating. This week, I want you to find one thing. If not this week, because today's Friday, by the end of next week, find one thing that you can delegate to someone else, even if it's your children, even if you have them sort their own laundry or set the table, small things. Think of one thing that you can delegate to someone else, because I do think that a lot of times moms, especially single moms, we get wrapped up in the idea that we have to be superhuman and be responsible for all of these things when we actually have people, even if it's our children in our home, that can help carry this load as well. So there will be anything that I will leave everyone with is think of one thing that you can delegate, and it's okay to give up some of the responsibility to someone else.
So many gems. Helping, having other people help you carry the load,
Yes.
even if it's your kids. I
Yes.
love that. You are the forever teacher. I love that you gave us homework. Y'all, you have homework.
And I will be checking
Delegate.
in.
Right? Delegate. Dasha, where can people find you online?
So I am across all social media platforms at thebrokeblackgirl.com. That's my website. Dasha Kennedy. That's another Instagram page. But across all social media platforms, it's at the Broke Black Girl.
Y'all go check Dasha out. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you, all of you who tuned in. Let's give ourselves rest and let's delegate this upcoming week. Be
Yes.
blessed.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.